Hello and welcome to this video for today. Whether you're here for the first time or you're returning, hope you will enjoy. Hey there guys, how's it going? Hope you're going well, and getting into this video here today to talk about I don't know how to quite put it, but running oppressive cards, essentially, is the way that I want to describe this. So I talked about the whole term, my deck is doing its own thing, where I sort of touched on this and said I wanted to discuss this a lot more. So running cards like Blood Moon, Back to Basics, different things like this, Aura Shards, lots of these different cards, Winter Orb, Static Orb, these cards that basically say, my opponents will not be able to play the game, or be able to play the game, will only be able to play the game at a very slow rate until they can deal with the permanence and whatnot that I have played to stop them from playing the game. So I'm also counting like stacks pieces, lock pieces, and whatnot, this sort of thing, taxing style effects and whatnot, for the most part, in this mass opponent hate sort of kind of category. So when you're saying to yourself, I understand, again, everyone has their own ways of playing the game. And again, if you like playing stacks and like playing these cards, that is up to you. Again, I don't know how much success you're going to have in finding people to play with you, but you might be able to. But again, that's here nor there. But again, you should always go into games with somebody knowing what they're going to play for the most part. Like, if you have these sorts of strategies where it's mass hate, whatnot sort of style strategies, to slow your opponents down and to stop from playing the game, then people have actual lives outside of this game. They're not, like, a lot of people, for the most part, aren't going to want to sit there and have to play the game out and see eventually when the person who's playing all these cards will win the game. So just playing these cards isn't, like, again, I sort of said this in my video, run win conditions. I can't remember what the video was called now, but I sort of said that in one of these videos, where I said these decks, their problem is that they don't really run a lot of win conditions, and that's what players want. They don't want to sit, for the most part, again, sit there for 7, 8, 9 hours, 6, 9 months, whatever it is, waiting for the player who's playing all these stacks pieces to finally mill out, or to finally find their combo and actually win the game, or do something that it means the game is over. There are players that will want to play, or will sit there and go, okay, I'm invested in this game, or whatnot, whatever. I want to figure out how I can beat this deck. I want to figure out the puzzle, whatnot, to get through all the stacks pieces, all the removal, all the counter spells, whatnot, so that I can actually start implementing my game plan and, get this game into my favor, or so that I can win, or whatnot. That's what we all want to do, again, for the most part. But again, running these mass hate cards and whatnot, just, I don't get really why people play them. And again, I get this whole that, again, everyone has their own style of play. But again, just one of the things is coming to a table and expecting that people will play just because, you know, you have sat down and pulled out your deck and started to play is another thing. Like, if people want to quit, then you should let them quit. At a certain point, I think people need to realize that people will not want to play against some of these specific strategies. Like, I would sort of count Ponza or mass land destruction style decks, or land destruction decks, or just straight up control decks as in this strategy sort of a little bit too, because mostly what they're trying to do is make sure that no one else can cast spells, or can only cast one spell per turn or whatever, and then they will have a counter spell ready for the spell that they do cast or whatnot, or they have an enchantment or an artifact or whatever, or some assortment of artifacts and enchantments or whatever that basically mean the other players are locked out of playing any more cards and adding to the game in a meaningful way. So that's what I mean. Like, once the game has reached a certain point of saying, well, at this point, this person can untap most of their stuff every turn, each other player cannot progress the game because any spell that they cast will be countered, and they can only cast one spell per turn. So that basically means that everyone else is locked out of playing the game. Therefore, the player who is playing these lock and stacks and whatever global hate effects, for the most part, has won the game. They haven't actually won the game, but they have won the game essentially. And again, people won't want to, for the most part, sit around and wait for somebody to actually win the game. They'll want to say, hey, if you can show us, what your combo is or whatever you're doing to actually win the game, we'll all concede right now. Or we'll all just concede right now and you can show us your combo or whatever you're doing. Because that's what people want. They want to feel like, hey, my deck did the thing and I would have won. Yes, you would have won. There you go. Good for you, type thing. That's my opinion of it, that, eventually you either would have got to it or you wouldn't have. And in that case, again, it's like, well, it didn't matter because the other players really could not do anything except play lands, and unless you're in that Ponza style, mass land destruction style deck again. But again, when people can only play one spell per turn and every spell is counted, or the first spell of each turn is counted, it's like, well, obviously those players cannot play the game or progress the game in a meaningful way because they need to get rid of one of the pieces that says they cannot play the game, essentially, for the most part, or whatnot, because otherwise the game doesn't go anywhere for them, and they're stuck there watching the player with all this mass hate stuff play solitaire, essentially. Now, again, if you find the right group of people who wish to play these sorts of games, that is fine. I'm not going to be one of them ever, pretty much. But again, there are crazy people, absolutely insane people that will sit there for 9 to 10, 12, 15, whatever hours it is for the most part, and play these games. I have heard of it. I've not seen it, but I've heard of it. And I've, found it about it, and sort of seen it to a degree where I've come into a store or into a game where some people are playing, and everyone seems very, very tired and extremely exhausted and whatnot. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, well, we haven't slept in the last, 24 hours or whatever it is because, this game has taken so long or whatever, or we haven't slept in the last 12 hours, whatever it is, because this game has taken so long. We've all been up all night waiting for this other person to, kill us, win the game in some way, which is again why most people, won't do that. They won't sit there and wait for the person to be like, 10 hours later, 12 hours later, whatever it is, here's my thing. I finally win the game. Oh boy, wasn't that fun, like to sit here for 12 hours. People want something to actively do when they come to play a game. They're coming to play a game. And I'll again make this argument that sort of I want to make is that isn't this a game and isn't the goal of the game to win the game? Yes, the goal of the game is to win the game, but it's sort of very hard to say that you should try to win the game as quickly as you possibly can, because that leads into more CDH sort of stuff, more combos and that sort of thing. I think it's more of a deck building ethos or theology or whatever when you're building your deck, to think, again, if you want to build that stacks or mass lockout or whatever deck, build it for a reason. Don't just build it because you can. Build it because you go, okay, this is my high powered deck, or this is my special deck that I really like. I really like to play this specific deck and I love to play in this way. So I'm going to have this one deck. It is a bit mean and it is a bit hard to play against, but if I find the right group of people to play against and whatnot, again, I will bust it out every once in a while or whatever when my opponents are playing too much high-powered stuff and they really are just like, Storm, basically, or mostly kind of Stormish, or it seems like they could have got to Storm a decent Storm count on their turn, for the most part, that you want to play a lot of this sort of, or you might want to play a lot of this sort of stuff. But for most people that play the game, that's not them. So again, just playing these decks and playing this way isn't the way to play either. Like, it's not the way to play to say I'm just going to combo off on turn 1 or 2 or whatever and win the game, because again, when you're just shuffling up to play, for the most part, again, unless you're in CDH, I'm just going to leave this to, this is more on the casual side again. On the first few turns, most people are playing their lands, playing their mana rocks, playing their mana dorks. Nothing's happening. That's why turns on the early turns are so fast and it comes back to your turn so quickly and whatnot, because nothing's happening for the most part. Again, you're just like getting set up to play what you're actually going to play, and if somebody just dumps their entire hand and says, oh cool, here's my win condition, guys, wasn't that fun? You haven't got that fulfillment or that satisfaction from playing that game because you didn't really get to play. Same with like these mass lockout decks and whatnot. Again, you've come to play a game where everyone, for the most part, is doing their own thing. Yes, this stacks deck is doing its own thing, but it is locking everyone else out of doing what their own thing is. So, yes, maybe there is one player that maybe deserves to be stacked on because they're playing basically as a storm deck of some sort, or basically they could have got to a very reasonable storm count on their turn or whatnot, or even off their turn or whatever. But again, most of the players aren't going to be at those two extremes again. So thinking about, like, you know, that whole statement, this is a game, shouldn't I try to win? Yes, you should try to win, and but you shouldn't just try to specifically build your deck to win, unless of course you're playing CDH. Then all this advice goes out the window, unless you're playing with a group of friends or playing with a group that specifically is like, yep, okay, we're up for playing against stacks, or we'll play it once a while here and there. But again, don't make us sit here and wait for you to get your combo. Just say, okay, cool, none of us can play anything because the first spell will be counted. We can all only play one spell per turn. So get to the point where you would actually draw your combo or whatever. We're all conceding. You've won. Okay, that's it. We're done. Cool, you've won. Whatever. You can show us your combo if you want or whatever. Things like that. Get to the point of saying, okay, cool, I've won, obviously. So here's my combo. This is how I win. Okay, cool. Good on you. Well done. What a game, type thing. But again, it's always being considerate of other people's time. That's the thing. Because people, when they come to play a game, they've taken time. Well, they're off of work, obviously. So what time do they get outside of work? What time do they get for their social life? What time do they get for their hobbies? Whatnot. Probably not a great deal. There's always stuff that you need to do at home. You need to do the laundry, and you need to do the dishes, and you need to make the dinners, and you need to do all the things and whatnot that you need to do. You need to pay the bills and whatnot. Yes, I know some of these things are getting a little bit easier and easier with some technologies and whatnot, and with, spouses and whatnot or whatever, taking the workload or whatnot sometimes, but you don't always do those things. And again, if you have your, game night or whatever, again, that you have set aside to say, okay, once a week or once a fortnight or whatever it is, or same with drinking, same with any other quote unquote hobby or quote unquote activity that you would do every now and again, or every cycle, or once a week, once a fortnight, whatever. You have that set aside to say, okay, from this time to this time is my drinking time, is my time to go play cricket, is my time to go play football, whatever, go play basketball, whatever, do judo, I'm going to say it properly, go play Magic, go do whatever I want to do. I have those few hours. My time, everyone's time is, precious time that they could be spending with their family or whatnot, with friends, or doing something productive or whatnot. They have chosen to come and play a game with you or with the other players at the table. The same thing. Every other player is there because they have a few hours, a few minutes, a few whatever, a break in their schedule or whatnot, or have set aside this time to come play some games. Again, people want to play the game. Don't just play the game to, sit there and play solitaire, because that's no fun for the other players and whatnot. So that's my main advice for this. Just be cautious about it, because it can cause arguments and fights and whatnot and all this other stuff. So just make sure that everyone's okay with playing against it, or you've got your group and okay, cool, these people will let me play this deck the way I want to. You can play your deck the way you want to. That's the thing. I'm not against it or whatnot. I'm just saying, take into consideration other people's time, other people's feelings, and other people's wants and needs when you're playing these sorts of decks. Because even if you think you know what you're going up against, sometimes, because you'll see someone playing, again, their Goalless deck or whatever, and you'll go, oh, I bet that's a really powerful deck. And then you find out that it's actually a chair tribal deck or whatever. and it just so happens to have, or Kenrit, or whatever it is, those sorts of decks. You can look at those decks and go, yes, that looks really powerful again, but somebody might just be playing Chair Tribal, and you might go, oh, yeah, I locked the person out who was playing Chair Tribal. Yeah. But again, anyway, as I said, you can play the game the way you want to, as long as you find the people that are okay with playing the game in that way and in that manner. That's it. That's all you've got to do, is be a little bit considerate with people. Again, don't just come to a table and slam your deck down and start, you know, trying to, say, this is the game that we're playing now, boys, and everyone's got to sit down and sit here for the next several hours until I actually draw my combo or whatever and actually win the game. Don't do that. Just be like, okay, everyone else is obviously just like playing some casual, like, fun decks or whatever. Obviously, I've won this game. Here's my combo. This is how I win. All right, cool. We're all going to shuffle up and we're going to play some different decks or whatever. That's it. So anyway, hope you have found this video informative and helpful. And if you have enjoyed, hope you'll join me again in another one. If you would like to further support the channel, you can go onto our Patreon. You can also get social with us on our Facebook. To follow all the updates, make sure you hit the like button. And on our Discord. To get into it, please leave a comment and I'll send you an invite. All links are in the description. I hope you have enjoyed this video here today, and if you have, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, and I hope you will come back for another one. See you then.